All right, we should be live. Let's make sure everybody on the YouTube channel can hear us. All right, I see my screen, so I guess that's a yes, everybody. Welcome to the RaceTab training session, and I'm Jason Byrne, and Cody Branch is also on the line with me, and this is the basic agenda what we're going to go over today. All right, I got myself muted now so I don't echo back. All right, so let me start over here. So my name is Jason Byrne, and Cody Branch is also on with me, and we're going to kind of split up and tag team this this training session. And so this is the basic agenda. First, I'm just going to talk about kind of where RaceTab came from. After that, I'm going to kind of go into where we are now and where we're going. Then I'm going to get into just an overview of just some of the features that you'll see within RaceTab, just a very high-level look. And then I'm going to pass it over to Cody, and he's going to be able to kind of take you from a timer's perspective into some of the more advanced features. So you can talk about the links interface and the chip timing and just some of those things that you guys are going to face on a day-to-day basis. And then hopefully I think we should have some time left over at the end where we're going to open that up for questions. And as far as questions go, if you're on the YouTube channel, there's a live chat. So you can post your questions there. If you're watching and it's embedded somewhere, you can actually click on the YouTube icon, and it should take you to our YouTube channel. If for some reason you can't do either of those things, then feel free to tweet and just put like hashtag RaceTab, and I will try to check those and look for questions when we get to that time. So if you don't know who I am, my name is Jason Byrne, and I'm the founder of MileSplit. I started MileSplit in 2001, precursored out all the way back in '97. So I'm old school with the internet and track, and I'm also the developer of RaceTab. If you guys want to be in touch with me, feel free to tweet me. There's LinkedIn and Facebook. Hook up with me there, and we can chat. So what is RaceTab? Basically, RaceTab is meet management software, as you guys always know. But kind of our core principles is we want to make it easy. We want to make it flexible. When I say flexible, I mean we want to work with so many different formats. And that's one of the people who really know RaceTab know that's one of the best things about it is that we can take any format in. We can put a lot of different formats out. It's just a really flexible platform. We're also pride ourselves now in being powerful and integrating with a lot of different systems and even more to come. Cody's working on some outstanding live results, apps, and RaceTab is also free. So those are some of the key principles of what is RaceTab. If you want to find out more, hopefully you guys know this stuff, but here's our website, our YouTube channel. Sorry, that's a long link, but search YouTube for RaceTab, and you should see a lot of tutorials and walkthroughs and trainings, and we're going to be adding to that, Cody and I, going forward more and more. And also on Facebook, we have a Facebook page where some people, if you're not on the community website, you can post there and you can get help there as well. So the history of RaceTab, I started developing RaceTab in 2006, and it was mainly in a response because I was running MileSplit and people were sending us results. And believe it or not, during that time period, we occasionally got even mailed results. We got fax results, but I actually got some standard address mail paper results. And it was like, guys, we can't digitize this. Like, we had to hand type it. It was just a mess. We also had some people just typing results into Word, typing results into Excel. And, it was just a lot of work for them, and it was a bad format for us, and people wanted to get their stuff published quickly. So we developed RaceTab for that purpose, where we said, don't use paper, don't use Excel, use this. So we made it very easy. We made it just basically like Excel, where you typed into a spreadsheet at first. Then we started adding more things like autocomplete and, of course, scoring that made things even easier. So once we did that in version 1, we came out with version 2.0, And we started getting a little bit of traction with some of our early adopters, and they were asking for more and more features. So we started adding some more bells and whistles. We started integrating with a few more things. We added our, import from delimited file, which is one of the most popular features. A lot of those things, but it was still kind of the low end of the spectrum, right? Your dual meets, your small meets. Not a lot of professional timing companies were using it. With RaceTab 3, which came out maybe 3 or 4 years ago, we started really integrating with Lynx really well. We started integrating with some chip timing systems. It was still, and I think at that point we could appeal to kind of your low to mid level timing companies. But maybe the high end people like Mr. Branch on the line, it still wasn't that. That wasn't the target audience. So that's where we came from. And also, I want to mention that during the course of that history, that many years between, say, 2006 and 2014, RaceTab was a very back burner project. Before I sold the company to Flow Sports in 2013, I was the CEO of the company. I was one of the primary developers. I was HR, I was accounting, I was all these different things. And RaceTab was just one of the things on a long list. So the development, we had a lot of vision for what we wanted RaceTab to become, but it never was high enough on the list to really get there very fast. So it was kind of a slow iteration toward the end goal. But where are we today? The awesome thing is that Flow Sports always saw the value in RaceTab from the time before they bought the company. But we had a lot of other things we had to do first. But when we got to the summer of 2015, about July-ish, is when it really started to come up my list of priorities and become one of the top, definitely top 3, but maybe top 1 or 2 priorities. And we're really trying to put a lot of focus on it. We have a lot of vision of what we want it to become, and we put a lot of work the second half of 2015 into it. And hopefully you see that as we released RaceTab 4 in August, and we've continued to iterate. Every couple weeks we're coming out with a new version. We're going to continue that pace very quickly in 2015. We really feel like 2016 is a huge milestone. For the high-end timers, we feel like up to this point we've been trying to close the gap. We checked most of the boxes, but there was always a few boxes that the high-end professional timer said, well, I can't use RaceTab yet because of X. With Cody coming on and joining Flow Sports last year, right, Cody, last year?
Last year.
We, Cody and I have been working together, and Cody's been kind of helping me to refine it and saying, these are the things that we need to do. These are the boxes we need to check. And we feel like what we accomplished in the last 6 months really got us there. It's not that we're done yet, but we've got there, and we feel like we've achieved parity with high tech, where you professional high-end timers can maybe cut the cord to high tech in the coming year. Stop paying that tax to active every year, and hopefully have a much better experience. So what we're doing going forward now is that we've closed the gap. Now we want to pass them. We want to lap them. We want to lap every other meet manager on the field. We want to just blow them away. So we're looking for more integrations, more refinement. Cody's helping to create apps that some of you guys know about. We just really want to innovate. We're going to tie very closely with MileSplit on a lot of things, but we're also going to kind of maintain our roots where we want to make sure that we're an open platform and we work with as many people as we can. Cody's doing some awesome things with live results. We're just going to do a lot of things. And what we envision RaceTab and MileSplit to be is a partnership with timers. What we ultimately want to achieve is a win-win situation where you guys are getting great services, not just RaceTab, but live results, online entries, all this stuff. From us, we're getting some of the data and some of the traffic, and it's just this great relationship. The end users are going to win because we're going to have really sexy live results that they're going to be able to use at the meet. It's going to be a great relationship, and we hope that you guys will kind of check it out and talk to us more about how we can do that. So from there, I want to dive into RaceTab itself and just kind of give you the high-level look at the program. So if you haven't used RaceTab before, this is the opening screen. It should be pretty simple. I'm not going to go through all the options, but here's all in the top left is where you could create blank meets, and it will kind of walk you through a wizard to do that. Down the bottom left is where you can import from various formats. So whether you're using our online registration, you download from MileSplit, you're importing from our article file, which is a proprietary RaceTab format, but that is also used by some other online registration companies that we work with them to support that. We added T-First support in the past year. Now that right now only works with cross country. That's a limitation that Direct Athletics has imposed, and we're hoping maybe gets lifted going forward, and they'll open that up to track as well. And then finally, a template would be a RaceTab meet that you set up previously, and you want to create a new meet from that template so that it has kind of the settings that you've already configured. And then over here on the right, of course, is the recent meets you've opened, or you can browse and open a new meet. I'm just going to open, one more thing to say. The first time you start RaceTab, you will need to log in to MileSplit. So you have to have an internet connection, log in with your MileSplit account. That just allows us to do some of the integrations we're going to do and the live results and things like that. But after you do that, you won't have to have an internet connection at the event. Okay, now when we click on a meet, we're going to open up RaceTab. And those of you not familiar with RaceTab 4, it's going to mainly look the same, but we did move a few things around, and that kind of threw some of you for a loop. We added a few new fields down here toward the bottom, which I'm not going to dive too deeply into all of these, but the biggest thing I wanted to point out is a lot of things that you're used to seeing other places is now under this top level menu. So if you see the RaceTab menu at the top left, you'll see this down arrow, and if you expand that, you'll find a lot of the things that you've known and loved that were in other places in RaceTab 3. And we really wanted to have consistency. That was the main goal. But we had buttons like all over the place. Some of them were on the team tab, some of them were here, some were there, and we really wanted to have it where we had one place to point you towards. So your import and export options are right here. So whether you're importing from a delimited file, you're importing from T-First, you're importing from whatever source, you just go to that main import link. Same thing with export. We support various export formats, so you can export to article, to CSV, to high tech, to various different things. Preferences, I won't dive into that menu, but that's just so you can change some of the basic parameters, like such as your lane preferences and things like that. Backup is basically a save as. It allows you to create a backup of the meet you're working on. I know a lot of you timers are like backup crazy, right? You want to create backups all the time just in case, because you're always paranoid that something's going to happen. So that's how you do that. Database is a really advanced feature that most of you probably won't want to get into, but you can actually look at the database structure within RaceTab itself. RaceTab, our tab files are actually SQLite databases. So in theory, you guys, we don't lock it or anything like high tech does. So you could go in there and actually query the database directly. And this gives you a view of that data, and you can actually run SQL queries directly if you so desired. Sources is a very important menu, and Cody will get more into it. But sources is what we're using going forward as a terminology for anything that we want to talk to, basically. Anything that we're pulling data to, in some cases pushing data to. So that any of your FinishLynx cameras, if you're doing iPico reader, we integrate really well with iPico. You'll see the ChronoTrack and MyLapse over here. If you click on that, it says not supported yet. That's just to let you know those are coming. Those are goals for 2016 that we want to integrate with those systems. But right now we integrate really well with iPico and Trident. We integrate with FieldLynx, FinishLynx, Finish Timing, Eagle Eye. So those are all there. Beyond that, we have an app server, and I won't get into that too much now, but just know that we have the ability across your local network. You can run things like clerking apps and working on announcer apps and all kinds of different apps so that your meet staff can do things directly within RaceTab without having to have RaceTab. It's going to be an awesome thing. It's going to really change the game, I think, in the sport. And we're going to go further than anybody else has ever imagined with that. Live results just gives you information about the live results. This will be a link here to where the live results are being published, which will be changing to be a prettier link pretty soon. We still allow the old school custom FTP upload for now. I'm not sure. We'll have to see. Going forward, that's really not the direction we're going, and it's not going to see the cool stuff that Cody's working on. But we'll have a really slick live results for you guys, and it's automatic. You don't have to do anything. As long as you have an internet connection, you're going to have live results being published. And then just a couple more things on this menu. The stopwatch is, I won't go into that, but you guys know what that is, most of you. If you're doing some hand timing within RaceTab, that's where that went to. When we released 4.0, then people were freaking out because they couldn't find the stopwatch. That's where it is. And then finally, captures is any data capture sessions we have, such as from the stopwatch, from some other external sources, from some of our apps that can capture like bib numbers and things on the fly. We all call those data captures. So we basically just store a copy of that you can apply later. And even if you edit, you can manually edit these captures to fix it, and we'll basically save a copy of both. It's just basically some redundant copies of that imported data that I'm sure you guys understand why redundant backups are invaluable. All right, and so real quick, what these miscellaneous links are. Division, in RaceTab terminology, a division is a group of events. A classification is a way to classify athletes. So an athlete can be a part of multiple classifications, and that was initially designed as for like disability classifications, but you can use that for a lot of different things. If you're put on a road race, you need to do like a Clydesdale division or some other crazy division, you can put people into classifications. Records are obvious. We're going to be overhauling our records format. It'll be much better shortly. Groups are another way to classify individuals, but an individual would be just a member of one group. So that's appropriate for your age groups, for example, where classification, an athlete can be in multiple classifications. Sessions are a group of events. You guys know what those are already. Waves. You guys should know what waves are. Hopefully allows you to do offset starts. Leagues are groups of teams. A distribution list allows you to pre-put in email addresses that you want to send results out to. And then points is split points if you're doing split points out on the course. Cody, you want to take over from here?
Sure.
Let me share Cody's screen with you guys.
All right. So I'm going to jump around, show you guys some different features, things that I like, things that I know you guys will need. We'll start off with something simple. There's import, which is a big thing when you guys jump around from meet to meet. And you're always trying to import data. And if you guys are like me, coaches show up with who knows what kind of Excel file, and you're just trying to like make it work. And with high tech, I know you guys know, like there's that semicolon delimited file. It's very like simple, but it has to be this way. There's no easy way to import anything that's not built the way that they want. So I'm going to show you guys the import feature. You can obviously import from a bunch of different things, but if we're going to import a CSV file, I have this. It's just a export from a database. There's all kinds of random stuff in there. It's in no specific format. So you can go up here. You can tell it it's a comma delimited file. It'll break it into its lines. You can say like you want to show the last name. This is the first name. Like we don't want to use that field. We can ignore fields. Like this is the sex. So you can go through and you can import pretty much anything. it's pretty impressive. I mean, it was one of the things Jason had already built when I started helping him. And it was one of the things that impressed me the most just because it was so flexible to import athletes, to import results, to import pretty much anything you could think of in a bunch of different formats. Um, so, I mean, that's a really cool feature. I would say a lot of you guys will really like the way it can import data. I'm going to go back out. One other thing that we added, and this will kind of help you guys as you get started, is the ability to import an EVT file and the start list and whatnot. So like one thing I really stressed with Jason was that I didn't want to try to get people to jump in right off the bat without any kind of safety net. So the idea with the EVT import is that you can still run high tech because that's what you're used to. And you can run this in the background just to kind of get a feel for it. So right now you'll see I've got a bunch of events. Most of them are unseated. A couple of them have results. We can go in, we can actually just clear out all the results and all the athletes from the meet. So right now there's nothing in any of the events. We can go into import, we can browse, and we can go to meets, and we can go to RaceTab, and we can pull out an EVT file. And so basically that just imported an EVT file. So if you go in, we'll have start list for the events based off the EVT file. It also imports the events if you don't have them there already, which is really cool. I think it's going to help a lot of you guys kind of easily set up a meet and still like have your safety net and high tech to start. Another cool thing what Jason talked about was the sources. So in sources right now, I have an FAT camera and a FieldLynx. Basically, you can just click one to add it. When you add it in, you can name it different if you have multiple sources. There's a TCP connection that I can kind of show you guys how to use. It's basically just a scoreboard output from FinishLynx that will send data through a network connection to RaceTab. I used it a lot in cross country because I'm sure like a lot of you guys, I use iPico and FinishLynx. If you import the data straight from iPico, then you don't necessarily get a change if you make a change in your FinishLynx file. So, I mean, a lot of you guys probably pull the data in, you're evaluating the picture in FinishLynx if there's close races that you have to flip-flop. Using this instead of the iPico connection would let you get the most up-to-date changes. There's a session output right here where you can say like, I only want to output Friday, I only want to output on Saturday. You can decide which day you want to output. I'll run you guys through the session setup pretty soon. You can add things like don't push data to links, only pull data in, which is what you'd want to do if you were using high tech. Basically, this would stop you from writing EVT files out. You'd only be consuming the data, the LIF and LFF files. Same thing for FieldLynx. Basically, we had set it up so you could do two different data folders if you had to for FieldLynx and FinishLynx. You can use just the FinishLynx one if you want. You don't necessarily need the FieldLynx. It was just kind of a way for you to have a second place to get the data. So we'll go back and I'll show you guys the sources, the sessions that we were talking about.
Cody, if you also want to point out, just go back for 1 second.
Yep.
Point out the icons at the top. You can see what sources you have that are active.
Yep. So when you add sources, you can see. So if we go in and we add a iPico reader, and we just say save and done, then you can see there's an iPico logo up there. Then there's a FieldLynx logo and a FinishLynx logo. If you right click them, there's ways to watch data, open connections, close connections, get times, and edit the sources, which is really slick. I mean, it's just an easy way to get up there and update data or get data or change the source. So what I was talking about was the sessions. You can go in, you basically just add sessions, your daily different sets of if you do sessions. I know a lot of you guys, it's kind of back and forth on if you actually even use the sessions. I know when I do multi-day events, I try to use it to keep everything separated. You can go through, you can add your events, you can put in your start times. You don't actually have to type the dates. You can just kind of key in the times and it'll all show up. And then that's what puts them in session order. So when you're in the events menu, which is kind of like the run menu of high tech, you can go in and say, I want Friday session, I want Saturday session. Cool thing Jason has is you can also like pick it, distance events, sprint events, like different kinds of options. If you want just the throws, you can hit the throws. It's really kind of slick. There's just a lot more ways to get what you need. So one thing I really like that Jason had added is the ability to automatically read in data files. So right now, like I have my start list for the women's triple jump, and then I'm going to go in and I'm going to save LFF file from FieldLynx. So if I refresh, the data is all there. If you go into the field series, you can see the full series. You can see all the wins. So all the data is just automatically loaded every time you save the file. So if you're using FieldLynx and you're constantly pushing updated LFF files in, RaceTab will consume those, and then it pushes them to the web results. It's like a 30-second upload right now. So every 30 seconds, it's pushing updates. So basically, this allows you to have live field events, which is something I always thought was really cool. I know there's a lot of people out there that use FieldLynx that don't get to take advantage of its full abilities because a lot of scoring systems don't do anything with that data file. I mean, the file's there. It's cool to use it. Another cool thing I know a lot of you guys will like, a lot of people are starting to do split times. So basically, you can go into an event. I'll do that again so you guys can see. You just basically click your event and hit edit, and it'll show you all your event options. But you can click create lap splits. And based off some of the settings on the first homepage for the meet, when you set the distance of the track, you can automatically do distance names. So if we go in and FinishLynx and I save the LIF for event number 3, I've got all my times, and I can go into splits, and I've got all my splits with headers. You can score the event, and then you can go into results. You can get different team breakdowns. There's also ways to show the splits. If you want to show them in their own column, you can show them column. If you want to show them below, there's options for that, which obviously isn't as pretty, but it works. Like, and all this stuff's really flexible in the reports options, which I really kind of dig. So like right now, like we use team field for the country because that's just their team. So like, oh, hey, we really don't want the country header in there. You can go in and you can see country is listed as group. You can just set group to 0, and then that goes away. Or if you want to get rid of age, you can go in and set age, which is year and time, to 0. And then it stayed there. But there's a lot of like custom links, which are cool. If you have like long names, you can set the field characters longer. If you want to change actual data, you can see all these variables that let you put that data into the report. There's just a lot of flexibility in the reporting, and it lets you save them as custom reports. So you do it once and you can save it, use it over and over and over. It's just, there's a lot of options, but it can let you do a lot of stuff, which I really like, instead of being limited to this is what you get because this is the basic report. So, I mean, that stuff's really cool. I know a lot of people have started doing splits, and that was a big thing I worked on Jason with. I was like, hey, we really need to be able to handle split data well. And he did a really good job coming up with different solutions. But the actual like labeling of the splits, I thought was really cool. Just being able to hit create lap splits and then they're done, instead of having to go in and key them all in. Because as you guys can imagine, doing that for a 10,000 meter run is super tedious.
It's probably best to define them like Cody is ahead of time, but just to mention, it'll also create them on the fly if it imports splits from links.
Yeah, so let me see if I've got an event without splits. So we'll go into this event and we'll delete the splits. So right now there's no split points for the women's 800-meter run. And if I go in and I save the file and it imports it automatically, and I go in and it automatically named the splits for me. So it's better, I always set them up beforehand, but it'll name them automatically if you set up the lap distance, which is really cool. That's something like if you're in a 5,000, I mean, obviously there's 13 splits. So, I mean, there's a lot of typing in there. I was trying to read, Chris had a question. And I don't quite understand what he's referencing about the text at the top of the headers. But I'll talk to him and figure out what he's talking about. Some other cool stuff is, like I showed you guys the field series. I mean, it's really easy to use. It's kind of similar to what you guys have done in the past. You can basically just tab, keep typing marks in. Highlights the best marks, which makes it easier for it to show you when you're looking at the form trying to compare with what the recorded version is. Okay, I see what Chris is saying. Chris, I'll talk to you after this, and we'll kind of look at that and make sure we get that fixed. So on top of that, we've got a lot of other little features that are cool. Like Jason said, we do a lot with the live results, and that's getting better and better as we move along. Basically, Jason has it set up right now, so every 30 seconds, it's pushing an update. So if there's new results coming in, like they're getting pushed out every 30 seconds. So you can post them to the web. Like the cool thing about that is, I mean, a lot of you guys are used to high tech. You save the file, you have to go and you have to load the data, then you have to go in, you have to post to the web. And there's a lot of steps in that, a lot of user interaction that pretty much requires you to have a whole nother person for some meets. And this kind of eliminates a lot of that. There's a lot of automation that lets you just kind of roll through events as you go.
Do you want to mention the status of the event as well?
Yes, yeah. So like at the top, we have a couple different statuses. You have incomplete, unofficial, and official, which basically let you tell the results what they are. So, I mean, on the live results, a lot of people are really scared about posting live results as it's happening because, well, what if people interpret it as the finished result? Well, you can go in and set it to official once it's official. And there's actually like icon on the pages that say it's official. I know like a lot of events I do, we have to keep it unofficial for at least half an hour and then it can become official. So you can just kind of change the status as you go to let the users on the web end know like what's going on.
When the event is scored, it automatically will advance from incomplete to unofficial. But it won't change from unofficial to official unless you tell it's official. And there's also a status before, if you go back from incomplete, Cody. Yep. Go back one more. To hidden, and that was a request that some of you guys made when we first came out with this feature, because sometimes some results are just completely screwed up and you don't want people coming up and asking you, what's up with these results? And so you can mark them as hidden until you get whatever squared away that's currently messed up, and that way they're off they'll disappear from live results.
All right. So for the split thing, we'll go back to the home menu to kind of show you guys where you set up the track distance. Down here at the bottom, you can say how long the track is, and that's basically what is used to determine the headers of the of the splits. So it's a 400-meter track. It's a 1,500-meter race. It knows it's 300, 700, 1,100, 1,500, which is really, really pretty cool. In the app server, there's some cool stuff that Jason's built. There's a lot of YouTube videos about it, so I won't harp on it too much. But there's just different ways to clerk right now. There's the bibinator, which lets you key in bib numbers as they're running across the line for cross country. There's a lot of updates coming to that as we move forward. And this basically will run off of a local Wi-Fi network. The idea is that as the timer, you show up, you have a Wi-Fi network that your scoring system's on. You can go to a simple web address on any device with a web browser, and you can basically pull up the web apps. So instead of having a lot of configuration, I know if you guys use tablets, then with FieldLynx, you have to install all this stuff on it, and you have to have all this stuff running. This basically lets you take any device with a web browser, put it on your local Wi-Fi network, and you can use the apps. There's some really cool stuff with clerking that I've been showing to people. Easy ways if you're seating on the fly. Like we had a big meeting in New Jersey, and they do everything on the fly. Like everything's done paper as they're coming up to the start line. And with the clerking app, you can basically key in bib numbers as they're going to the line, and you can have their names in the database with their lanes already linked in, so they show up in FinishLynx, which is really cool. Jason's pulling up some of the apps now.
Yeah, I'm just showing the clerking app. You can see, and all I did to get there was just click on that link from within RaceTab, and now I'm in the clerking app, and I don't have anybody entered or seated into this event yet, but you can see how you can kind of browse through, and you can look at heats and see who's in what lane. So it just so I just put that person in that lane, for example. So it's pretty slick. Yeah, we won't get into it now, but the idea is to have a lot more of those. But the clerking app is probably one of the most awesome ones we have.
Yeah,
we switch back to
there's always ability to update and innovate. That's a big thing with us, is always trying to make stuff better. There's always ways to improve, and getting feedback from you guys is a big key in that. Like, hey, we really needed to do this. That kind of stuff is super valuable. So letting us know what you guys want to see, if there's things here and there. I mean, I have a pretty good idea of a lot of the stuff, but everyone's a little different. Everybody has special circumstances, and we really want to try to make it where this can accommodate anything you guys could have. The big idea with the apps is, instead of having a bunch of people networked into the same database using the same software, is that you can basically hand the jobs out as apps. So instead of having, I mean, a lot of you guys probably have someone that puts in field event data. A lot of you guys have things that, like you might clerk on the fly, you put field event data in. So you've got different people logged into the scoring system. The apps basically let you hand out the jobs without giving them too much power. Like right now, I know, like if I'm in high tech and I've got a lot of people messing around the database, I can't do different things because the database gets locked. With the apps, that would kind of keep that, everybody be in their own lane and be different from each other. Adding teams and stuff is really basic. You just go in, team name, abbreviation, you can enter all their different data. A big thing in cross country was primary leagues. So we could add, if they're Division I, Division II colleges. I know that's a big thing with TFers that we had to accommodate. So we did that with the primary leagues. There's with athletes, and one cool thing that Jason has is searching. I mean, I know, like, if you guys are high-tech guys, you're F6 and you can search their team names, but this lets you search. So if you start typing, you can be like BR, I want BRN, BRA. This is a bad one because it's all done on countries, but like if you're over here, like I'm just going to type in day, and searches for day. If I type in Christine, it searches Christine. So instead of being limited, what was that? So it lets you do a lot of nice searching that we couldn't do before. Everything's sortable, so you can click sort by team, sort by name. Clicking the people, you can see their events on the right, kind of similar to what you guys are used to. Some of these are weird because they're imported from the EVT, so they don't have the sex, so it doesn't limit what events they could be in. But if you're using the database full on, it shows you all of that.
And you can also type right into that grid as well.
Yeah, so one cool thing, and we'll go in and we'll just do this real quick. If, like, a lot of you guys probably do little stuff on the fly. So instead of being a big, like, pain in the butt to add athletes, if you're in an event, like, let's say we'll do this one. I want to be bib number 90, and it doesn't know who I am. And then I can type, maybe I can type, Cody Branch, and I'm team flow, and I'm in lane 1. And so if I go back to athletes, I search Branch, I'm there. So instead of having to, if you're doing a lot of on the fly stuff, it really gets to be flexible, which I thought was really cool. The first time I really messed with it, it was even before all the new updates. Just the ability to do stuff as you go was really, really nice. It just kind of lets you run through things instead of having to go through a bunch of steps to do changes. If I did go and I added an athlete, so event bib number 91, and I'm in this event, I could also just type bib 91 and it'll add them in.
And Cody, let me show, I'll share my screen and show the signing of bib numbers. So on my file, I don't have any athletes assigned to bib numbers. And so obviously this is more in cross country, where you just click bibs, and you can easily break it up into different genders. Sometimes people like to do one range for males and one range for females, or various things. We make that really easy, where we could say put all males from 1 to 999, and I can say assign and continue, and it's going to assign all those. And then if I change that to, once it's done, I'll change that to the females, and then I can assign females from 1000 to, wherever, and click assign and done. And it's working there and assigning all those bib numbers. This window will close, and you'll see now everybody has their assignments, and the males have their range and the females have their range. In addition to that, you can also, a lot of times I know you guys want to also sort by teams. So over here on the left-hand side, I could have also said that I want to sort by team name first, and then, then gender, and then athlete name. So that all of your bib number assignments will be nice and tidy. All the teams will be together. All the males will be together. All the females will be together. Will be in name order. So pretty nice feature there. Let me pass it back to Mr. Branch now. All right, it's all yours, Cody.
All right. So I mean, there's a lot of other stuff in here. The backup is something that I made Jason put in, so you guys could kind of back up your databases just in case you made changes. Like, I know anytime I do a big purge or a big import on top of data, I always like to have a backup file. So that's always good to use. So that was something we kind of added in, where it just wrote it basically just writes a extra RTAB file. So you can just save free backup, and you have that. So if you did something stupid and you erased your database, you at least have that stored somewhere to use. And I'm not going to use it for a different meet. I don't want to open it. So it asks you that stuff in case you want to back it up and then try something silly just to see if you can break it. Like if you are doing something risky, you can back it up and then try it. With purges, I know that's always a good thing to do, is to back up your data before you actually do the purge. So other stuff that has been added, I mean, we went over the automatic import of LFF and EBT files. We went over some of the basic importing features. There's some new stuff that in the exports where you can export advancers. I know that was a big thing. Basically, when you're in there, you can just say advancers, if it's male or female, top number of places, the schools, to export. There's obviously the export to high tech. So it's in the special format for high tech, or an export to a CSV file. That lets you say if you want it tabbed, delimited, semicolon, pipe, custom. There's a lot of different things you can export.
I think Cody's using a beta version here, 4.20, which will be out this week or next.
Yeah, so this is some stuff Jason's been working on. Like the big thing I stress is that this is getting updated and it's being actively worked on, which I think is really cool. Compared to some of the other stuff, I know you guys are probably with me where, oh, hey, this has been updated. Like there's a new version, but then the new version doesn't actually bring any new features. Every time Jason's putting out a new version, it's got something cool that's new that we've been trying out that we really want to do. Jason, you want to run him through maybe some of the seating stuff?
Sure, yeah, I can do that.
Kind of a basic intro to how to seat a meet. After
Okay,
that, I really don't have a whole lot else to share.
Yeah, then we can do some questions after that. So so right now I've got a middle school meet that I put on last May here in Florida. And so if we wanted to seed, for example, the elementary girls 100-meter dash here, we just select that event, and then we click the seed button over here on the right-hand side. And we could do all of our whatever seeding options we want to do: serpentine, best together, random, etc., full or balanced heats. If we want to do a break point, we can do a break point so that the fast heat will have 8, but we might put, well, we wouldn't in 100, but if it was a different event, we might put 16 or even more in the slower heats, but we only want a certain number in the fast heats. We can do all that. Pretty self-explanatory. You'll see down here, before I seed it, here's all the unassigned people. So here's all the people who are in the event, but we haven't seeded yet, right? Probably don't want to do this, but in theory, you can actually grab people and just drag and drop them and put them into a lane if you wanted to do that. But what we normally do is click seed round, and this says you've only got 1 heat, but you really need 5. Do you want to go ahead and create 5? And I say okay. So now it's created my 5 heats and put people into the appropriate lanes. And again, I could still manually move people around. So if I wanted to move this girl out to lane 8, I wanted to trade these 2 people, you can do all those manual adjustments as well. And then if I click save changes, it says seating saved. And when I go back to this screen, you'll see I have everybody in the 5 different heats. Now, one other thing that you can do if you say, hey, it sucks to have to go through every single event and do that. Well, I agree. So what you can do is you click seed again, and we have this thing called autopilot. So I can filter only, for example, sprints and hurdles. And then I can check all of these events, and I can, and so they're all checked over here. And I can set my rules up how I want all these events to work, because usually common events would have common seating rules. I could like uncheck the 400 if the 400 was going to be different. And then I can just click my autopilot button. And what that's going to do, that one's already seated. It's warning me I already seeded one of the things, and where I want to reseed, yes. It's going to go through all those events and seed them one at a time. And it does give me a little window to preview, and you can configure how long that window is. But if you look here at the top right, with this little airplane, get an autopilot airplane, it has a little countdown. And basically it's showing you a preview of what the seating is going to be before it actually saves it. So you could kind of have a little window to pause it if it's not what you wanted before it actually saves it. And again, in your preferences, you can configure how long you want that to be. You might want to make it 1 second if you don't want to have to wait, or you may want to make it longer so you have longer to preview it. But that's basically how the seating works. Now I'm going to click. I guess we're all done. And when I go back, then all these events are now seated. So that's all there's to it.
Cool. I think now if you guys have some questions, we can kind of get into answering questions.
I think there was a couple questions in the YouTube channel. So
yeah, I saw there was a question about field event relays that I saw. Yeah.
Okay.
So Tim asked, in New Jersey, we have a ton of meets that have multiple field event relays. Is there a way to designate A and B team members on those?
I think the answer for field, unless correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think we have A and B field relays. Now we have A and B regular running relays, but we don't have, I don't believe we have any way to specify A and B for field relays. So
yeah, that's the first time I've heard of A and B field relay. That could be something, Tim, that we look into, because it might not be very hard to add that in. I don't do a lot of field event relays anyway, but I've never really seen a lot of A and Bs in the field event relays.
Yeah, definitely, guys. Take, as Cody kind of alluded to earlier, take part in at racetab.milesplit.com, which is our community website and where you download RaceTab from. Because we like to have active dialogue with you guys. I mean, email us, tweet us, post there, post on Facebook. I mean, we really want to have a dialogue in all kinds of ways, but that's one of the best places to do that. Ask questions and make feature suggestions. And, depending on how hard it is to do and how quickly we can implement it. A lot of you, I'm sure, can attest that a lot of times we're very responsive and can get new features added. Sometimes within the hour, I've had people request something. I'm like, sure, let me push out a new version. So yeah, I mean, request it, and we can look into adding that feature. See if we have. Yeah, post away if you guys on the chat if you. I'm scrolling up to see if there's any more. Okay, Chris Sumner has a question here. He says, for road races, the full combined results used to be available, but since the new race splits male and female, is there a way to go back to full version? Yeah, I think we can do that. Actually, let me make sure I'm sharing my screen and not.
Yeah, you're on your screen.
I'm on my screen. Okay.
Yep.
So if we go into, gotta think of what I'm doing here. Let me create a mixed event. I'm in a track, so this is a little awkward to do, but I'll create a mixed 5,000. So we have that, and so that's down here at the end of the list. And the default would be then to print it as split, that we want male and female to print separately, because that's usually what people want. But down here at the very bottom of the screen, if you see, we have this option under the scoring tab that says split genders yes or no. So the default is yes. You would just change that back to no, and it should change that back to the old way, which would print both genders together. All right, anything else? I can check Twitter and see if anybody's tweeted any questions, but again, post on the chat if you have some there.
Crowd view.
There you go.
Cool.
I'll share your screen, Cody.
Oh, I don't.
Yeah, let me share yours.
Have a lot to show him. I'll just tell him about because it's not quite done. But
go for it.
So for crowd view, the idea is that we can do a couple different things. There's going to be a version where the announcers can get data. Field event standings obviously track stuff as you're going. The big goal is to eventually tie in a lot of historical data so they can sound really smart when they're at meets. Like a lot of times you'll hear an announcer say, oh, it's Jim and he's in lane 4 and he's from this school, and that's about all we know for him. But with all the data that's in the mile split database, we're trying to be able to give them more, like this is his personal best, this is his season best. So that's one version of CrowdView. That'll probably be more specific to announcers. There's also another version that we're working on to be able to display, like a lot of you guys use Result TV right now, and that's a big thing. We're trying to give you a cheap way to do something similar where you can screen capture to a TV or to a HDMI output and displaying different results for field events or for track events kind of as you go. Kind of like a scoreboard interface, but something that's cheap and easy, because spending $1,500 on pieces of software kind of adds up. So that's the big goal with CrowdView, which is what Nick was asking about.
Yeah, just to add on that, some people just want a running time, a running clock, and I think we've had that in the past where it just basically shows a running clock and maybe the last split. So we're looking at having an app that does that, as Cody said, something that is basically like a Result TV kind of thing. I think it's one of the awesome things about computing now is that they're so cheap, and you can buy these little Android TVs with an HDMI output for like $30, $40 at the most, or Raspberry Pi or whatever on just buy it from eBay or Amazon or whatever. And we can turn those into things that you can make yourself look very high end. And that's really what we want. We really feel like we have the opportunity to help the sport innovate and move forward, but do so on a way that that you don't have to break the bank. And not only the very high end meets can do that, but your mid tier and even your lower tier meets at times can do some of those really awesome things. As Cody was also talking about, we want to help the announcers look intelligent. We want to bring in that data where they're smart. We want to bring that into our live video streams. If we're live video streaming the meet, we want the field event people who are often forgot. We're going to make field event apps so that kind of like FieldLynx but better, where those results are coming in live. You don't have to retype them later, and those guys can get love. So think about a long jumper who's out there and ignored until an hour later after his event's over, he finally gets, oh, he jumped 25 feet, cool. But if we have these apps in the hands of your officials, if you actually get your officials to use them on a phone, a tablet, whatever, a Chromebook, they can be inputting this stuff live once we get the field event app, and all that stuff goes on the internet live. The announcer sees it live, so he can give them publicity. We're just really super excited about the apps, which is kind of the next thing we really need to push forward after we really nail live results. And we think we can really change the game of the sport.
All right, so we'll go to the next question. John asked if we could show how to make a field event relay. And basically you just go in to your event menu. When you're adding an event, you select the type of event, and its behavior is relay, and that should pretty much do what you want. Then I might let you touch up on this one, Jason. Are we going to have the ability of A and B teams, like if we had Pearl High A and Pearl High B, so that they're scored as separate teams?
That might go along with the field event relay question, where we need to essentially make people on the same team but different teams. Right now, the only way to do that is to have them as separate teams. So I don't. That question might also tie into online registration, and that's a whole nother discussion. So I would say that we're interested in implementing those features, and let's talk about it and see what you would need. And maybe you need to just set an athlete as a B team, but maybe in some cases the same athlete might be A in one event and B on another event. So let's discuss that on racetab.milesplit.com and just see what everybody's needs are as we think about that feature.
Yeah, so James, if you post that on RaceTab, the racetab.milesplit, then we can kind of get some more feedback. Because I mean, that could be taken a couple different ways, I guess, if you're talking about cross country or track or a number of different ways. Then we got Kyle. Kyle asked when we'll be able to interface with ChronoTrack. I think that's something that we're going to work on in the spring and summer, so it'll be ready by cross country. The big goal is to have ChronoTrack and MyLaps fully supported by the time cross country rolls around, and then you guys can do your splits and finish times and road races and whatever you want to do with ChronoTrack. Jim asked, when I go into the seating and change the number of lanes or positions, it carries over into other events.
Just the seating preferences?
Yeah. I'll let you touch on that one.
Now, it doesn't impact the seating in the other events, but it does remember your preferences.
And so if you change it, if you're seating a 1600 and you change it because it's a longer race, then you have to change it back when you go to a sprint race, I think is what he's saying.
Yeah, it just basically remembers what your last setting was on that seating window. We don't have currently the seating settings in the event edit window, which maybe we need to visit putting it there. But yeah, again, it just basically saves your last preference in the seating window.
Yeah, I would say, Jim, that's something we'll probably work on really quick because that makes a lot of sense to me. And then being able to have it set up in the actual event menu. Joe said, when RaceTab imports entries times or for sprints, sometimes the times come across as minutes versus seconds. His example was like a 29-minute race instead of a 29-second race. I would guess a lot of it's formatting. I guess I haven't really noticed that in my stuff.
The only time I've seen that is when the event is set up improperly, so it's like classified as a run.
Or if the time is entered wrong.
Maybe the import had a weird format. And the other thing I've occasionally seen is the English or metric difference. So when you set up your field events, you should tell it whether you're using metric or English, because if you import, it's going to expect it to be what it's set as. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and then I mean, he said his note involved the FLR online entry system, so that could be, I would guess, more formatting when they type it in. If I had to guess, I mean, Joe, if you have, he said something else. What did he say? I think, Joe, if you have some examples that you could maybe email me and Jason, we can kind of check on that and see what's happening. It's a lot easier to kind of troubleshoot something like that when we actually have examples to look at. But I mean, both of us, it's just our names at flowsports.tv. So I'll type it in so you've got it. What else? So Chris asked if we could touch on the FinishLynx again, and we can do that. We can do that. So basically, up here in the sources menu, you can add cameras, FieldLynx, different sources, and you basically just tell it what folder your FinishLynx system is pointing to. And that's the easiest way to integrate. Everything pulls LIFs back in automatically unless you change it to manual. So every time you're saving the race in FinishLynx, it's updating the results.
And whether you're an automatic or manual, you can always right-click on the icon up at the top and choose Get Times,
Yes.
and that basically forces a sync.
If you're up at the top, you can right-click and hit Get Times, and that's the easy way to pull stuff in manually.
Sure.
All right, Tim asked if we can touch on seating for dual meets with assigned lanes to teams. You want to switch to you and show them how to do that?
Sure. Too many windows open over here. All right, here's my screen. So we're looking at assigned lanes for teams and seating?
Yeah, so if we're doing a dual meet.
Yeah, so it's going to be hard for me to actually do a great example of this with this meet. But if I edit the team, so I'm going to edit Academy of Holy Names here. Down here towards the bottom of this screen, you can assign them lanes. So if in a dual meet, sometimes it would be odd and even. So you can just click odd, and now and if I save this team would get all the odd lanes, obviously even lanes, or you can just do a couple. And then so when you do seating, again, I'm not going to be able to do it. I'm not set up to do a great example of that. But when I go to the event, let me just pick any event here. In your seating options, the lane assignment, one of the lane assignment options is by fixed team lanes. You have two options there, leave empty lanes or fill available lanes. So that basically means if you have lanes that either didn't get filled or weren't assigned to a team, what do you do with them? Do you leave them empty, or do you fill them with other people entered in the meet? But that's how you do it. So you just choose that option and then seed, and it should work as expected.
All right. Kyle was asking about live results. So if you switch back to me, I'll kind of show him some of the stuff I did for cross country, and we can talk about live results a little bit.
There you go.
All right. So basically, this is kind of what we were doing during cross country. We used it for the Chili Pepper Festival, a meet that I time. There's like 5,000 or so, 5,500 runners that actually run. So it's a pretty big meet. When you're going through, you can click, like you see all the names, times, pretty standard stuff. For the college events, we had to do the college and university, so we can split up the divisions, kind of like that. There was nice things when you click names, you can see all the members of the team. And the status, like I never actually changed it to official because I was slacking. But there's a lot of pretty simple. It looks nice. There's a mobile format that I will pull up. It looks a little goofy since it's on a full screen computer, but with similar stuff where you can see individuals, you can see teams, you can click the teams, and you can see their members. It looks a lot nicer on a phone. So there's a lot of stuff like that we've been working on. There's more in track. We're going to push a lot of new stuff out in the next week for track with field series, live field series, splits, different ways to format the splits, because that's a big deal, is how to display all this data that you get is always pretty tough. And so that's something we've been spending a lot of time on. A lot of what I've done in the past is kind of getting transferred over. So we can always show you guys a couple of those examples because it's going to look really similar. So if we're
and that's in the live results are something that we're also continuing to iterate on and have a lot of plans to do better. I think it's pretty darn good already, but we have some vision to how to make things even better, how to make site more responsive. Right now, you would essentially direct people to go to live.milesplit.com, which would give you a list of the latest meets that are on live. And that works. And I know a lot of people are doing that. Some people even printed up some signs that they don't print results anymore. They just made a banner that says results available on live.milesplit.com. We're going to do more with that. We're looking at ways to make it easy for them to find the meet that they're at, either by geolocation or giving you guys some custom URLs just to get to your meets easier. So we got a lot of plans to make it even better.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to keep getting better as we move forward. We want to make it as cool and awesome as we can. I know, like, when I started doing results, instead of doing them after the event, I started doing them live, and then it has to be more live and more live and more live. I think the end goal is to help everyone hit that level where, like, you don't need to print results at a meet anymore because they can go in and look at them on the internet. They don't have to wait till there's a printout because as soon as the race is over, it's getting posted. I know, like, jokingly, one of the conference administrators at one of the cross country meets we did was making fun of me because no one was actually watching the race. They were watching their phones as they ran across the splits. And and came across the FinishLynx, they wanted to see the updated team scores.
And Nicholas had a question about the live results and if there's going to be an ability to customize the HTML and CSS. I think the answer to that is slightly up in the air, but the main answer is that not they're going to be able to edit the CSS and HTML directly probably, but we are working on ways to allow you to add custom meat logo, to customize some of the colors, and we definitely want to give your timing company front and center publicity. We, again, as I said earlier in the thing, we want to be true partners with you guys and make it something that you're proud of, we're proud of, that is good for the user. So we don't want to hide the fact that they're your results. So we want to give your timing company visibility and some customization, but not complete changing the layout of the page or nothing like that. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I think what Jason said was spot on. We want to keep it standard to a point, but we want to give people the ability to change colors and logos and like make it their own, but keep it in a standard look. So that it's. I mean, every time the user goes, it's always going to be the same, no matter who's doing it. It's kind of easier for them to know how to navigate it then.
I mean, I think in our vision is that we have this site with 300 live meets on it at a given weekend. It would just be pretty awesome.
All right. Jim asked about a flash timing. He said when we list athletes in order of finish, Flash doesn't read the position. We have to list order of finish in lanes. Is that a flash timing bug?
It sounds like it, Jim. I mean, send me an example of your EVT or LAF or whatever files we're talking about there, and we can look if maybe Flash is doing something different than Lynx. For you, those of you who don't know, that Flash timing, Eagle Eye, and Lynx all should use the same format, basically a format that Lynx created, but they have a few of them have little quirks, not twerks. That's something different.
All right, so James asked about online registration, which is a good question because we didn't really touch on that. So he's asking,
yes.
This is something that I had Jason add because it bugged the heck out of me. So basically when you're using RaceTab and MileSplit, you have the ability to go back in and to import from MileSplit anything that's new. So if you pull down an import before or like right when entries close, and then, oh, hey, dumb coach from whatever school didn't pay attention, and you have to go back and open it back up for them, you can import the new entries. It's really easy. Just what was that, Jason?
I'll share my screen here.
Okay, yeah. So you can give them an example.
Yeah, so my meet that I'm working in now was originally downloaded from MileSplit. So if I had that happen, I just go to import, and then I click download roster data from, and you see TFers is available too, and rosters, but download from MileSplit, and then I can choose what I import. I can choose to purge existing data or not. If you purge existing data, it's basically going to wipe all your data and then and then import the new one. It also gives you the ability of what to do with duplicate data. So if it sees the same one, should we keep what we have locally, or should we overwrite from the server what we have locally? And you can also choose what exactly you want to import. So yes, the ability that is there. I don't know what version that was, but sometime in December we added that.
All right. Dual meets with no pre-entered entry. How do you recommend handling? I can manually type into RaceTab the eligibility list, but that's it. So, this is from Field Coach. So, I would assume you're saying you have the names, but you don't have any entries prior to the event. So what I would do is put all the athletes in from their eligibility list, number all the athletes, and then you can basically just use the bib numbers to key in the seeds. That's where the clerking app that Jason kind of showed off a little bit comes into hand, because you can put athletes in entries from a tablet really easy. or you can just key them into actual RaceTab with their lanes. That's kind of what I would do from the sounds of it, but there might be more to that question than I'm reading into.
Yeah, and we can talk offline on some strategies with that. But I mean, I know the Armory has used RaceTab at some crazy meets where they don't see anything on the fly, and they got like 100 heats or something of some of these events, and they're basically putting people in lanes at the start line, and they don't know who their names are, and they're they make it work, and they can get the names matched up later. So there's a lot of strategies that you should find RaceTab very easy to adapt to that.
And from everything I've seen and tried, the ability to do stuff on the fly in RaceTab is the most flexible of anything I've done. That's where I think it really kind of shines in those kind of meets. All right, I think I'm out of questions. Anybody else have any questions?
Write the athlete's number on their hands. There you go.
Yeah, that's a good one. Cheaper than bib numbers, and they can't lose them.
I can show one thing real quick while we wait for another question, and that's double duels. Some people are bringing up dual meets. So if you haven't seen how how RaceTab handles double duels, basically what you would do. Oh, this is going to be really bad meet for double duels because there's like 100 teams. So I won't actually click the button. But what you would do is earlier I told you that leagues is a group of teams. So what we want for double duels is we want to take the meet and basically break it into sub meets, and we're going to do that by league. So if we do that, we click on this leagues on the setup tab. There's this button here that says double duels, and basically what that will do is create all the leagues and assign the teams for you. So we'll create one league that's team A versus team B, team A versus team C, team B versus team C, and it'll create those and assign the teams into those leagues for you, so that when you print the results, you can separate those by leagues, and then you have results for all of your double duel meets. Okay, I'll pass it back over to you.
All right, does anybody else have any questions? No?
Going once.
You gotta,
yeah, I'm just trying to see if there's
the live stream catches up, but
right. While we're waiting on the, I'll share my screen again. A few other little things that people may not realize that we've added recently is on this setup screen, you'll see this new audience field, which is new. And basically what that does is you can by saying whether your meet's a school meet or a club meet or an open meet or an elite meet, it kind of knows what you probably expect. In other words, if you're a scholastic meet, when you're on the athletes tab and when you're printing results and whatnot, you want to print grade, right? But if you're on a club meet, you don't want that column to be for grade, you want it to be for age. So it does some things like that, and there's other things as well, country fields and whatnot. But that's what that is for. So we just think that makes it pretty nice. So you don't have to do all that customization. You don't have to see things that aren't relevant to you. And then for age group meets, also on here, the right-hand side, you can specify what date should use to calculate ages. So that's for birthdays. As you probably know, like USATF is like the end of the year. If you turn 8 anytime this year, then, well, you're 8. So that's where you can say to calculate ages on competition, date, on the year, or a custom date. So, all right, we have any other questions that popped up?
Yeah, so Josh asked about scoreboards and Daktronics. Josh, the big thing is we're looking more at LED boards than Daktronics right now. Being able to give you guys outputs that can be used for the LED kind of displays. Since I won't lie, it seems like Daktronics is dying a bit. More so the fact that you can actually put a video feed on most Daktronics boards. So you don't really need the RTD input. Plus the RTD input's so limited that it's kind of should be phased out anyway. And they're asking about field event score sheets. Well, Jim asked about the difference in seating between serpentine, balanced, etc. So if you want to kind of touch on that, and then I'll get an example for the field event score sheets pulled up.
Sure. So yeah, in the scoring, in the seating settings, we have these options for random, best together, spread out, etc. So full heats basically is going to favor creating full heats versus balanced heats. In other words, let's say you have 4 heats, but if you put 8, 8, 8, you're only gonna have 3 left over in your last heat, right? So that would be full heat. So that would favor filling as many heats as possible and then having the leftovers at the end in the last heat. Whereas balanced heats would say, okay, I'm doing the math here in my head, but we're going to do 7, 7, 7 to 6. It would attempt to balance them out, even if that means not favoring filling up the earlier heats. Serpentine, most of you guys probably know that. That's like a lane assignment method where it assigns, it's really hard to explain, but it assigns like the first seed. They say there's those same 4 heats. It would do the first seed in your fast heat, and then the next, and the next heat, and next heat, next heat. And when it gets to the 4th heat, then it assigns the 5th seed in your 4th heat also, and then it would go back the other direction. So it like winds like a snake. A lot of states use serpentine. Does that answer the question? Random is random. It just, if I do random and I click seed, it's going to change every time because it's just picking at random. Best together is going to basically create a fast heat, and then a best spread out is going to spread out everybody into different heats. Best spread out is pretty close to serpentine, but it's just a subtle difference because it doesn't wind back, it starts over.
All right, so then we'll go, the next question was field event score sheets, and if they're easy to send to the host so they can print them out before the event.
Yeah, this should be pretty easy. Let me see if I have any, I can see the field event real quick. Not the long jump's the best one to do, but it's good to see it's long jump. And if I go to publish score sheets, field events, I mean, here's my long jump score sheet based on what I just did. And this, I mean, the same thing with all the other events. Everything's not seated. Some of them are seated. So yeah, here's all your score sheets. And you can save those to a file. You can email them. So that's just on the publish tab, just under score sheets, field events.
All right. Tim's asking about apps, field event apps, and clerking apps. The clerk app is pretty responsive, so it would work on the cell phone. They would have ability to use it offline as long as
well, you don't have to have an internet connection, but you need to be on the Wi-Fi connection.
Yeah, I mean, I think it wouldn't pull down new data if you're not connected. So I mean, if you're doing a clerking thing, you definitely want to make sure you have good Wi-Fi connection because you're pushing back and forth constantly.
Yeah, just to reiterate, you don't have to have an internet connection, but you do have to have a Wi-Fi connection. So you may not realize this, but you can have a local Wi-Fi network that's not connected to the internet. So your devices can connect to that Wi-Fi, even though there's not internet on the other end of it. And so you do need that so that your apps can talk to RaceTab. RaceTab is basically acting as a server. And so the clerking app is ready. It's, we maybe have some few things we want to add to it, but it works really well already. And the field event apps are not yet. They're still in the plans.
And field event sheets, can you print extra lines beyond the pre-done entries? Basically, just blank lines in case there's write-ins on the event.
That's a good question.
I don't think it does that right now.
There's any customized things that I've even forgot about. No, but you can print blanks. I don't know that. I don't think so. I think the answer is no. So that's something that we would probably add into these advanced customized settings. And you see in this advanced customized settings while I'm in here, that you can also customize how many trials and finals attempts and all that kind of stuff, and do a little bit of that tweaking to it. But I don't see necessarily a way to add additional blank lines. You can use this option to just that doesn't really work very well, does it? So we probably want to add another option to add 3 blank lines to each event or something like that. So that's a good idea.
Okay, and then you want to switch back to me? I'll show
Sure.
the import thing again real quick. So Mark and Andrea asked about the best way to import entry details from an Excel spreadsheet. We kind of touched on this earlier. Once you're in RaceTab, you just go up to the top menu. You'll hit import. You browse from your computer, and where is that? Hold on a second. Let me get the folder. I have a test one in. So I have a CSV file of athletes, and you can import athletes entries depending on what kind of file it is. This is just an athletes file, but you can say it's delimited by comma. Take the tab out because you don't want to accidentally find the tab. You can go in and say this column ignore, this column's last name, this column's first name. You can label like what column goes into what on the in the database. So you can import, like this is obviously the T-first number, so you may get association number, sex. Like you can import just almost anything you can imagine, which is pretty cool. There's lots of different options for fields. It's all really flexible compared to what we've done in the past with high tech, having the very like this is how it has to be semicolon delimited file. So I think importing entries, I think you guys will like that feature a lot. It just is a lot easier to use.
Okay, and Josh had, go ahead. Are you finished?
Yeah, I was going to answer Josh's question. But go
okay,
ahead.
Yeah, Josh asked, does the clerking app create the links files? The technical answer is no, because the clerking app does nothing but talk to RaceTab, but RaceTab will in turn create the links file.
Yeah, so when you save a seed, like and it pushes it back to RaceTab, then RaceTab triggers an update to the EBT file. So as you're going through and seeding on the fly, your EBT file is being updated, which is huge when you're seeding on the fly. You don't even have to really do anything. You just keep timing, and you can let your clerks do their thing, which is pretty nice. All right, Gary asked about the ability to export advancers and the special XC option. I'm not 100% sure what he means by the special XC option. If you're talking about the CC road race menu or something from high tech, for exporting advancers, this isn't out in a release version yet. Jason's just been working on this in the last couple of weeks. It
actually is out for high tech export.
Oh, okay. So you can go into export and you can go into high tech, or if you're exporting to CSV, you can go to CSV. You just tell it like I want to advance 3 people. You pick the teams and you can export the files, and it'll write the export for you to merge into your Meet of Champions.
So for example, in Florida, we might always want to export the top, in cross country, for example, we might want to do the top 15 individuals always advance. So we might export the top 15, but then we want to also choose the teams that advance. So we might check the teams. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yep. Okay, then Gary asked another one about the ability to give Meet data on a thumb drive or make a backup copy of the Meet file and give it or send it via email to another timer. This is something we kind of covered earlier. In the RaceTab, there's a backup feature that writes an RTab file. You can always just go in and copy the actual RTab file. It's easy to email. I mean, you can just send it as is without having to zip it. So, I mean, that kind of answers that one, I think. Like, eventually, we've talked about being able to share within your timing group easier, finding different ways to share amongst your timers. Because I know, like, a lot of you guys out there probably have 3 or 4 guys that help you on the weekend. So finding easier ways to make that data accessible to them is always a big thing for us.
Yeah, essentially we want to, this isn't out yet, but yeah, we're thinking about giving you guys essentially your own cloud, right, to kind of pass things back and forth through the internet really easily, so that you all see the same data in that basically shared drop. Now you could use Dropbox. I was going to say like Dropbox. You could, for that matter, you could use Dropbox if you wanted to.
Yeah. One thing I would say for timers, like when Jason talked about the very intro part of this, being able to sign in. What I've done is I always try to just have the one sign in for my timing guys, so that we're all logged into the same thing. And I think as we move forward, that'll make it easier handing off meets, building cooler features with cloud options and stuff. So that was, if you guys have multiple timers, that's kind of how I would set you up, is set up like a timing login, and then
Although we do have the ability in MileSplit to create time, like, yeah, multiple users associated with the same timing company, so we could go about it that way as well.
Yeah. So I think that's something like I would do. I mean, like Jason said, we can link multiple timers to your timing company, but I always thought it was easier just having one login, so all the guys could log in. All right, so they asked about displaying the implement weights and results printouts against each athlete.
Against each athlete?
And maybe you can be more specific, because it's like, I mean, the implements and the shot put are all the same, if that's what you're asking.
Well, we're waiting for him to answer that question. I'll just mention that something that a lot of people don't realize is that when you name events in RaceTab, so let me edit this event. There is a drop down here.
Share your screen.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. All right. Should see my screen now. So I'm just editing an event. A lot of people go here and set up events, and they see what is on the drop down menu, and they think, oh, I have to choose one of these options. Well, these are really just kind of some standard ones that you can use, but there's nothing stopping you from going in here and adding. I'm going to show my ignorance of this because I can't think of what discus weight is right now. Whatever 3 kg, whatever discus weight is. So you can change the name. You can edit those manually. If you wanted to have a sponsored event, you could go in here and say, you know, the Norris, Buick, whatever. So these are flexible. I would encourage you to stick with our basic format as far as discus throw, 5,000 meter run, things like that. But you can customize that, and that name will stick with your event. So if you needed to specify the implement weight in the event name, you can easily do that there. Switch back to you, Cody.
Yep. Okay, so Tim asked if there's a way to have it autofill open lanes before seating with unknown athletes. I kind of get what you're touching at. I would assume you're just wanting blank in links. You want blank lanes in the event, so you have the lanes just to type in the times. I don't think it does that. I mean, maybe that's something we could add, but then you have to specify.
Now you can do that in if you do that in links, and you put in the times go into links into lanes without people in them, then in theory RaceTab would import that from links and just create a dummy athlete for those.
Yeah.
That might not be exactly what you mean.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Gail is wrong, because we can log into multiple race tabs with the same login.
Yeah, within RaceTab, it's not going to. What she's basically saying is MileSplit. You only are logged in one device at a time when you're on the MileSplit website. That doesn't apply to RaceTab.
Yeah.
So RaceTab will bump you off.
All right. So Mark and Andrea gave us a little more about their weight question. Some meets run events with multiple grades in the same competitions, and as such, athletes throw different weights. How can this be added to the entries and displayed in the printed results? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I would assume they would be grouped by their weight. So it'd be like divisions inside of the events. Or you'd have
Yeah.
different events for each weight. I guess I guess part of me doesn't fully understand, because the way it reads, it sounds like they can throw multiple weights, but they all get scored, but you want to show their weight beside their name. I don't see where that would be
Okay. So
fair.
he says, yeah. So I mean, that's an interesting one.
I've never seen that before.
So it's the same event, but the athletes are throwing different implement weights, and you want to print them in the same results, but display the weight. Yeah, I don't know. Honestly, don't know.
You could do it a note, I guess, but seems like it'd be a lot of work.
Yeah, you could do a note.
You
So
could do a performance note
yeah,
inside thing, but you'd have to enter all those in. I mean, I would assume if you're doing this right now, you're doing it very manually anyway. But
yeah. So at the bottom, yeah, I guess Cody's showing you the performance note there at the bottom.
Yeah, down at the bottom, you can type like 3 kilograms or whatever it is, and that would show up in the results. But I'm not sure.
Yeah, I was trying to think of a way you could do that with either groups or classifications, but you know, if that athlete's in more than one event, that doesn't really work.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess a note would be
okay, so, yeah, how does the notes work? So yeah, you click the event, you click the person, and then down in the bottom you can type in a note. You can type whatever you want, and then that'll show up in the results. Yeah, the note can show up in the results.
Yeah, that's one of the available fields.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, if that's how you want to do it, it sounds like a lot of work. I'm sorry, but that would be like the easiest way to do it with what's there right now. Tell your meet director they're crazy. All right. Does anybody else have any questions? Need for Eagle Eye. What do you need for Eagle Eye? Ah, you're the New Zealand people. That makes sense. Oh, okay. You crazy people over there. Oh, man.
On the other side of the equator. Well, we appreciate you guys down south there using it. That's really exciting. I know we have some people in Guam using it. I mean, all over the world, people are using RaceTab, which is really cool.
I'm just glad the time zone thing worked out for them so they could get on.
Yeah.
Tim, did you have anything else with the Eagle Eye? Maybe. Does anybody else have any questions? Yeah, and so we'll be nice. We'll be nice, and then we're gonna take all of this whole hour and 37 minutes so far, and it's gonna be posted on the YouTube channel for you guys to look at. Earlier we had our emails in the chat. You can email me or Jason anytime. Try to email both of us, just because if one of us is gone or something, we might get back to you sooner. But I'm always here to answer questions, so feel free to ask. Or if you guys have ideas or problems or whatever, I mean, feel free.
I can mention a few other random things while waiting for any other questions that people may have never known existed here. So you probably won't do this manually, but when you edit a team, you'll notice that there's actually contact information for the coach down here. So you have like email address. Oops, I don't want to show some of these email addresses. You have email addresses, and the same in athletes as well. There's a field for email addresses. So we have now you may have that from your entry system, like I did, that it automatically downloaded from the entry system, and that is in addition to the distribution list that we set up, which is more like a journalist comes up and says, hey, can you email it to the News Sun or whatever it is? You can add them to distribution list. Point being, when you publish results and you click on the email link, you'll see that it's going to email it to MileSplit, to my distribution list, and to participants. So what that will do is pretty sweet, is that if you do that option, everybody that you had an email address for is going to get a copy of those results emailed to them. And I can already see somebody asking the question that, maybe we can do some more with that to be able to email out, other kinds of notifications and announcements. or text out stuff. I mean, there's a lot of things we can do with that, but that's something I think I've never mentioned before, but if you didn't know, it's there. You have any other questions that popped up, Cody?
So Tim followed up with why he wanted blanks. He says with Eagle Eye, they won't allow you to post a time for an event that's not assigned. Which makes sense.
You may have to just create some dummy athletes.
Yeah, and maybe it's something where we add something that says it's this many heats and we want full lanes for each one, but
yeah, we'll have to discuss. We'll have to discuss that.
That's something that sounds like Eagle Eye should be more flexible on, but I mean, if you add I guess I've never really used Eagle Eye that much, so I didn't know it did that, but I would think thered be a way to do it. That might be something Jason and I will hook up offline and see maybe if there's some kind of easy way to just give you blank lanes to do something like that.
Cool. And so we'll give some more time to answer some more questions as I point out another feature that a lot of people you do know about, but some may not. And this is more so for cross country than track, but I'm in the track meet. We have these links when you're in an event for edit times and edit bibs, which some people find really, really great, especially if you're doing like pull tabs for cross country, for example. Let's say you missed somebody, right? I could come in here and I don't know if this bib number is going to exist, but I can type in a bib number here and you'll see it automatically inserts that person in that spot. So you see it inserted that person where I put them. You can do the same thing for times as well. I don't have times put in for this event, but if I did, I could edit it the same way by inserting a time or removing a time and making those adjustments, and it would automatically overlay and fix those results for you, which again is super useful for cross-country pull tabs.
Can you show them real quick how to add the performance note on a result?
Yeah, so you just click on whatever person it is, and then down here at the bottom, you would just type in a note. So whatever we want to say, lost shoe, right? And so that will save that note with a person. I'm going to need to, if we want to see it in the results, I need to type in some times here. Score it with a couple people. It should be that guy. And if I print results, hopefully I can remember how to do this. Darn it. The event's not complete yet, so it's not going to do that. Score all. It's going to take me a second to score all this. Okay, so hopefully we get results now. There we go. We got results. So showing the note, you're challenging my memory. Oh, here we go. Entry note. Show in the advanced customized settings. Show entry note. I think that is that field. That's not. I haven't done this. This one's not a very common one. I'm sorry. It might be one of these custom columns. Is there another question? You could jump to that while I look it up. Is there another question, Cody?
No. Someone asking if we're going to put the link out. We'll definitely email the link to the RaceTab mailing list for sure.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to look into a little bit more to make sure that we can print this. I think it's there somewhere, but yeah, I don't remember at the time how to add that note. Sorry.
Yeah, we'll look at that, Mark, and we'll get it figured out and make sure you can do that for your fun New Zealand events. It'll be something that you'll have to customize a bit to actually put it into a field, I think, but we'll definitely make sure we get that looked at.
And one other note with RaceTab, different from high tech, is when you do a DQ or a scratch or something, you actually put that into the place column, not the time column. But if you mistakenly put it in the time column, it actually does correct it for you automatically. But just to note that in theory, you could still have a time for a DQ team, which is sometimes I think kind of cool. You could see what they ran before they were DQ'd.
All right. Does anybody else have anything? All right. Well, like I said, if you guys have questions, anything, the racetab.milesplit site, you guys can always post on that, or just email me and Jason if you got something specific with examples. We're always here to help. So if there's nothing else, I guess we can wrap it up.
I will do one last check of Twitter, and if not, we'll be done. Sorry, Twitter's taking a little while. I'm not seeing anything. So, yes, that's it, guys. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. And, I mean, I'm so excited. I got to give Cody props. You know, Cody is the best in the biz. So when he joined Flow Sports last year, I mean, it's been great. We worked really great together, and he's been able to bring the perspective of what you guys need. And we're pumped up about what we can bring to you and what we can bring to the sport. And we just feel like we can add to the experience of the athletes, and we can have this relationship between your timing company and Flow Sports /MileSplit, and that's just so mutually beneficial. And we can give you all this technology and services and great features to make you look better. And you know, it's a win-win-win, and we're pumped up about it. Right, Cody?
Yep. I think it's going to be cool, and I'm really looking forward to everybody's feedback. Just trying stuff out, letting us know what you guys want, need. Like we found out today, there's a lot of little odd things here and there. So trying to accommodate those is kind of a big thing for me.
All right. See you guys next time, and let us know if you have any more questions, or maybe we'll do a follow-up session sometime, or if you have something that's you know, we can make a walkthrough that we post on YouTube later. We're glad to do that. So post on racetab.milesplit.com or email us. Thanks, everybody.